It was clear through Lynn's research of trying to find notable women in certain fields that there was a lack of reporting, of representation, and of recognition. And I think she found that niche, and that's what she researched and captured. So by way of categorizing and putting together the book, these portraits of significant women in these particular fields was how she made her mark, because the catalog didn't exist. And it is so valuable today, being able to capture these women at this point in time. I mean, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was not as well of a known figure, and she didn't know she was going to become Supreme Court Justice, but some of these women in their early days, before they were as notable as we know them to be today, was pretty remarkable.
It's not just taking a picture of somebody, it's the context of the world that they're in. And you can't get a whole story itself, but you can get the inkling of it. If you look at the picture, let's say, of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, it's in her office with her books. That's the story. Then you have to discover the rest of the story. But at least it gives you an inkling of what that person is about. And at the time, she was a civil rights lawyer and not that well known. She wasn't the rock star that she is now. And one of the things about all my portraits is I want context. I want the viewer to be able to see somebody as they really are, and also what kind of work they do, so that you can get a sense when you see the simplicity, the directness, and you even see, you know, she's conscious she has a little pin on her dress, and she has something that's loose, that's tied, that she can work comfortably, and her book is open. So it captures her, the expression, the tilt of the body. Her eyes are very aware, and she's engaged, so that it's not only with me, it's who's going to look at the picture. Julia Child, when I photographed her, was already a rock star. I photographed her in her home at her kitchen. And one of the things that I always try and do is I want to engage with the person so that they're looking at me and I feel there's a direct connection, and at the same time it's in context. And you don't do that with Julia Child because she's focused on the cooking. But it's taken me years to understand you photograph somebody the way they see themselves and you get it. You help them be the best that they can. And this gets her. She's at the stove, she's cooking, and it's warm, it's engaging. This picture is my superstar. This is an iconic picture that's been seen around the world. And the irony about this picture is that when I took it, I was a children's photographer. I was 38 and she was 76. And to me at that time, she was an old lady. And she was also formidable. It scared the hell out of me. And it also was scary because I'd never photographed an adult before. I had photographed Arnie Glimcher's kids. And he said, you have to do Nevelson. Well, I wasn't going to turn that down. She's one of the greats. But at the same time, it was very scary. So I got a bunch of friends to come over to the house so that I could test my skills out on, you know, what it was like to photograph an adult. Now, the thing about this picture is, and what I do with all my pictures, is I break it up into 4 sections. So that 1, they get used to me. 2, I can observe them. 3, I move them around to different backgrounds so that I have a selection. I go in close, I go far away, I go to the side. So I'm giving myself multiple options. At the same time, I'm focusing on who's she and making sure she's comfortable. And so that when this was done, she said these were the best pictures that she had. That particular portrait wasn't really my first choice. It was another one where her vision was much more direct. But this one, when I look back on it, and this is almost 50 years later, is really the one that captures the essence of who she is, because it's an iconic picture. It incorporates from the waist up. It's where her hands are relaxed. Her eyes are not the way I always like, which is very direct. They're a little bit opaque. But when you look at her art is layered. It's very powerful, it's layered, and it's contained. And that's what you get in this picture. It's like the art and her persona are reflections of each other, and this particular portrait really does it. And her dealer, Arnie Glimcher, who's one of the great dealers in the world, said, "This is the one picture that captures her." Her granddaughter said, "When I think of my grandmother, this is the portrait that I think of." And Nevelson herself wrote, when I did it, she said these are the best pictures she ever had. And what I realize is I make people look good, but I also get who they are. And when you look at the picture then, you're looking at the soul of the person, and that's what I go for. The Venice Biennale is considered the Olympics of the art world, and has been for the last 129 years. This portrait was in posters all over Venice. It was the single portrait that framed the whole Venice Biennale. It was a symbol of the whole Biennale. That's exciting. This one is such a wonderful picture. It's a picture of Alice Neel. She was acknowledged later as one of the great portrait painters of the 20th century. And what she did is she captured humanity. And what you get here is her humanity. You can feel that the body is relaxed, her hand is in her pocket. She's looking out with a gentle gaze, and she has her rag, that she uses for her painting. So I have other pictures of her that are wonderful, but this captures her in her studio and gets her, what she does and who she is. The last picture is of Billie Jean King. And Billie Jean King, I photographed in the locker room of my gym locker room. She was a superstar. And the thing that I found remarkable about her is her humility and her gentleness and her energy. One of the things that she taught me when I photographed her, I always talk to people and I get them to talk about what they're passionate about, what their life is about, and I read up beforehand so that I can make them comfortable. And she said one thing that has lasted all my life and has lasting through my kids' life. If you want somebody to do something, you have to get them to do it in their own interest. And that stayed with me for a lifetime. I think the thing that comes through with all these women is that whatever you do with passion and you are committed to it, it's not what you're going to get out of it. It's not whether you're going to make money. It's not whether you're going to get recognition. They believed in what they did. And that's what basically unifies all of them. And it's a great lesson, for men, for women, for everybody.
What I didn't know was her level of persistence and that she didn't have a publisher. So the fact that she started photographing children, and when she was asked to do Louise Nevelson, and that became iconic, and everything else followed. So it was sort of a circumstantial journey that was accidental. I mean, that was not her passion, as photographing adults. That was probably the most surprising thing. And that what she was so passionate about, there were phenomenal images, but that's not what has created her legacy.
Listening to her story about how the way she just kept plugging and going after everybody, and just, that kind of passion was very, very inspirational.
And one thing that I think everyone learned about Lynn, something personal about Lynn, is that she definitely doesn't take no for an answer.